Kunja Vihari Jaya Radha Kunja Vihari Jaya Radha Kunja
Hare Krishna His Divine Graces Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada ki jai. ISKCON Samsthapakaracharya Sevar Bhagavad Jagadguru Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai. Dai Gaur Premanandi. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. naram chaiva narottamam devim saraswatim vyasam tato jayamudiraye nashtaprayeshu abhadreshu nityam bhagavata sevaya bhagavati uttama shloke bhaktir bhavati naishthiki. Reading from Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 2, entitled The Cosmic Manifestation. Chapter 9, answers by citing the Lord's version. Text number 41. Tam nāradaḥ priyatamo tam nārada priyatamo tam nārada priyatamo riktha-ādānām anuvrataḥ riktha-ādānām anuvrataḥ riktha-ādānām anuvrataḥ śuśrūṣamāṇaḥ śīlena śuśrūṣamāṇaḥ śīlena śuśrūṣamāṇaḥ śīlena praśrayeṇa damena ca praśrayeṇa damena ca praśrayeṇa damena ca damena priyatamo riktha-ādānām anuvrataḥ śuśrūṣamāṇaḥ śīlena praśrayeṇa damena ca Nārada priyatamo riktha-ādānām anuvrataḥ śuśrūṣamāṇaḥ śīlena praśrayeṇa damena ca tam nārada priyatamo riktha-ādānām anuvrataḥ śuśrūṣamāṇaḥ śīlena praśrayeṇa damena ca tam nārada priyatamo riktha-ādānām anuvrataḥ śuśrūṣamāṇaḥ śīlena praśrayeṇa damena ca tam nārada priyatamo riktha-ādānām anuvrataḥ śuśrūṣamāṇaḥ śīlena praśrayeṇa damena ca tam unto him nāradaḥ the great sage Nārada priyatamaḥ very dear riktha-ādānām of the inheritor sons anuvrataḥ very obedient śuśrūṣamāṇaḥ always ready to serve śīlena by good behavior praśrayeṇa by meekness damena by sense control cha also. Translation by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada. Nārada, the most dear of the inheritor sons of Brahmā, always ready to serve his father, strictly follows the instructions of his father by his mannerly behavior meekness and sense control. Please repeat this translation after me. Nārada, the most dear of the inheritor sons of Brahmā, always ready to serve his father, strictly follows the instructions of his father by his mannerly behavior, meekness and sense control. Text 42. I'll read by myself. māyāṁ vividiṣan viṣṇor māyā-īśasya mahā-muniḥ mahā-bhāgavato rājan pitaraṁ paryatoṣayat. Translation. Nārada very much pleased his father and desired to know all about the energies of Viṣṇor, the master of all energies, for Nārada was the greatest of all sages and the greatest of all devotees, O king. Please repeat this translation. Nārada very much pleased his father and desired to know all about the energies of Viṣṇor, the master of all energies. For Nārada was the greatest of all sages and greatest of all devotees, O king. Purport by Srila Prabhu. Lord Brahma, being the creator of all living beings in the universe, is originally the father of several well-known sons like Daksha, the Chatussanas and Nārada. In three departments of human knowledge disseminated by the Vedas, namely fruitive work or karma kanda, transcendental knowledge or jnana kanda, and devotional service or upasana kanda, Devarshi Nārada inherited from his father Brahmā devotional service, whereas Daksha inherited from his father fruitive work, and Sanaka, Sanatana, etc. inherited from their father information about jnana kanda or transcendental knowledge. But out of them all, Nārada is described here as the most beloved son of Brahma because of good behavior, obedience, meekness, and readiness to render service unto his father. And Nārada is famous as the greatest of all sages because of his being the greatest of all devotees. Nārada is the spiritual master of many famous devotees of the Lord. He is the spiritual master of Prahlāda, Dhruva, and Vyasa, down to the forest animal hunter Kirata. His only business is to turn everyone to the transcendental loving service of the Lord. Therefore, all these features of Nārada make him the dearmost son of his father. And all this is due to Nārada's being a first-class devotee of the Lord. The devotees are always anxious to know more and more about the Supreme Lord, the master of all energies. As confirmed in Bhagavad Gita 10.9, Macchitta Madgata Prana Bodhayanta Parasparam Kathayantascha Māṁ Nityam Tushyanti Cha Ramanti Cha. The Supreme Lord is unlimited and his energies are also unlimited. No one can know them completely. Brahmaji, being the greatest living entity within this universe and being directly instructed by the Lord, must know more than anyone within this universe, although such knowledge may not be complete. Thus, it is the duty of everyone to ask about the unlimited Lord from the spiritual master in the disciplic succession of Brahma, which descends from Nārada to Vyasa, from Vyasa to Shukadeva, and so on. Thus ends the Bhaktivedanta purport. Om Ajnana-timirandasya Jnananjana-shalakaya Chakshurunmilitam yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Namo Vishnu-padaya Krishna-preshthaya Bhutale Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swami Niti Namine Namaste Saraswate Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Deshatarine Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Srivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Shukadeva Goswami is describing what happened after Brahma received the essential knowledge from Vishnu, the essential knowledge about devotional service, the essential knowledge about the personality of Godhead as the ultimate truth, ultimate reality. Brahma instructed Nārada. Now Brahma has many well-known sons, and each of them receives a specific instruction or a specific duty is assigned to each of his sons. Among all his sons, 3 of them have specifically inherited 3 different departments of Vedic knowledge. The Vedic knowledge consists of 3 major departments. One is called Karma Kanda, or how to perform fruitive activities for attaining some specific result in this world. The second one is Jnana Kanda, or the portion of the Vedas specifically dealing with transcendental knowledge. And the third department is called Upasana Kanda, or the department dealing with devotional service. The 3 sons of Brahma, Daksha, the 4 Kumaras, and Nārada received the specific knowledge from their father about these 3 departments. Daksha became expert in Karma Kanda. Daksha was assigned by Brahma to populate the universe. Daksha is one of the Prajapatis. When Brahma wanted to populate the universe after the creation, then Brahma entrusted this responsible task of populating the universe with good progeny to Daksha. So Daksha became the inheritor of Karma Kanda portion of the Vedas. So what is the Karma Kanda portion of the Vedas dealing with? Because generally people are inclined to fruitive activity. Fruitive activity means I do some work and I want some material gain. That's called fruitive activity. Everyone generally is inclined to fruitive activity. That is also because that is the kind of influence of the material energy on all of us. It is described in the Purana, Vishnu Purana. Vishnu Shakti para prokta kshetra jnākya tatha para avidya karma samya anya tritiya shakti rishyate. Vishnu Shakti, the energies of Vishnu are many, but they are broadly classified in 3 divisions. The first one is the spiritual energy which makes up the spiritual world, all the spiritual paraphernalia. And the second one are the living entities. The living entities are the second category of Vishnu's energy. And the third, Tritiya Shakti, is called avidya. And and karma. This third energy is category or major division of energy is called material energy, whose characteristic is that it puts anyone who comes under that influence into ignorance. Ignorance of the self. When we come under the influence of material energy, we become ignorant about ourselves. And also, it induces us to perform karma. Karma means fruitive work. So this is the influence of the material energy. Since most people in this world are influenced by the material energy, so practically everybody is inclined to fruitive work. Now if at all somebody wants to do fruitive work, there are stringent laws which actually are severely or stringently enforced on such living entities in this material world. So because there are laws, one should be aware as to which of the kind of fruitive activities are favorable and which are unfavorable. If I want to earn money, I cannot simply think of some method how I can earn money and simply do that activity and get money. No. Just like even the government says, yes, you can earn money, but there are proper ways to earn money. You cannot steal or you cannot do a criminal activity and get money. So similarly, the laws of God in this material world are classifying activities into two major categories. Activities which are sanctioned by the scriptures, which are in accordance with the laws of karma. Such activities are called pious activities, punya karma. And there is another set of activities classified as papa karma, which are considered as sinful activities which give bad reaction. So people should be educated that if at all you want to do any fruitive activity, then you should avoid sinful activities and you should do only pious activities. You should avoid papa karma and you should only do punya karma. So the section of the Vedas which describes what is punya karma and what is papa karma, that section of the Vedas is called karma kanda section. And because different people are inclined to perform activities with the aim of getting different kinds of benefit, the desires for such material benefit are so many. Therefore, there are so many different descriptions in the karma kanda section how one can get different benefits by performing different types of pious activities, punya karma. So it's a huge section of the Vedas that deals with this karma kanda. There are different types of sacrifices, there are different types of charity recommended to be given, there are different types of punya karma, pious activities where one may do some welfare activity for other living entities, or one may perform some austerity, some vrata, or one may worship a superior and out of respect for the superior render some service. So like this, so many different recommendations are there, so many different types of pious activities are mentioned, are described in the karma kanda. And even in the sacrifices, because people are inclined to work differently, Not everybody is inclined to work in the same way. So to accommodate various mentalities of working, even the sacrifices are of different divisions. Briefly, Krishna mentions these types of sacrifice in the 4th chapter of the Bhagavad Gita. So, all these are descriptions of karma kanda, the types of sacrifice, the types of dana, the types of punya, the types of vrata, so many are there. This is the bulk of the Vedas, because the majority of the people of this world are inclined to fruitive activity. Therefore, the bulk of Vedas deals with karma kanda. Then there is jnana kanda. Jnana kanda is the section of Vedas which describes transcendental knowledge. Knowledge about spirit, atma, atma jnana, or Brahma vidya, Brahman, knowledge about Brahman. Now, a small section of the people who are pious, who are inclined to do only punya karma, who have become freed from sinful tendencies to a large extent, because they have become wise by either good association or by performing vrata very strictly, following the rules very nicely, or by performing some tapasya, or by performing some sacrifices, yajna, or by tyaga, by renunciation, or by performing some dana. By good fortune, somebody may become wise and may consider that all these recommendations in the karma kanda, giving some material benefit, is not ultimately satisfying the self. Even though one may desire so many different types of material benefits, all those material benefits are ultimately not satisfying the self. So a wise person who notices particularly this dissatisfaction within the core of the heart, in spite of strictly following all the regulations of the karma kanda, even accumulating wealth or getting some knowledge, getting some power, or getting some benefits, or getting some, developing some good character, good behavior. In spite of all that, it is not satisfying to the self. Because the self is different from the body. The self is different from the mind. So whether you get some material benefit which may please the senses, or please the mind, or may stimulate the intelligence, you are different from the body, the senses, you are different from the mind, you are different from the intelligence. So all this karma kanda section cannot satisfy the real self. And therefore, one begins to inquire about transcendental knowledge. When this inquiry begins, then one is directed to the Jnana Kanda section of the Vedas. This Jnana Kanda section of the Vedas principally consists of the Upanishads. Upanishads consists of the portion of the Vedas which describe what is Brahman, Brahma Vidya, Atma Vidya. See, the Bhagavad Gita begins with this Atma Vidya, with Brahma Vidya. First instruction Krishna speaks to Arjuna in the 2nd chapter, 11th verse. Ashocyan anvashocastvam prajñāvādāmscha bhāṣase. Gatasu na gatasuscha nanushojanti pandita. A really learned person does not lament about the body, whether the body is in living condition or it is in a dead condition. Because ultimately the body is not the self, the body is not important. It is the soul, the spirit soul, which is the self, which is important. So Krishna begins with this Atma Vidya, Brahma Vidya. So the Jnana-kanda section describes primarily the spirit soul and also describes the Supreme Spirit. But the descriptions are mainly to differentiate spirit from matter. While Karma-kanda section mainly deals with all the different varieties of pious activities, fruitive activities for material gain, it is mainly dealing with matter. All the benefits can be classified under the interactions of the three gunas. So Krishna summarizes this Karma-kanda in one verse of the Bhagavad Gita. He says, Traigunya Vishaya Veda. Traigunya Vishaya. The interaction of the three gunas produces so many varieties of different material things, material effects. And that is what is the material gain of somebody who is engaged in Karma-kanda section of the Vedas, or the pious activities, fruitive activities, Punya Karma. All of Punya Karma is simply Traigunya Vishaya. And Krishna advises Arjuna, you have to go beyond this Traigunya Vishaya by becoming Nistraigunya Bhava Arjuna, by rising above the three modes. To rise above the three modes, one should cultivate this Brahma Vidya by doing Punya Karma, by studying the section of the Vedas which are dealing with these pious activities. One can never understand or know about the real self. So, to know the real self, one has to study the Jnana-kanda section of the Vedas. One has to study that portion of the Vedas which describes what is Brahma. But because people are so much engrossed in the material conception, bodily conception, everybody thinks in this material world in terms of the body, or at the most somebody may consider one's own identity as the mind or intelligence, which is subtle matter. Even mind and intelligence is matter. It is subtle matter. So even the very learned person in Karma-kanda portion of the Vedas is having knowledge at the most about subtle matter in terms of the mind or intelligence. Whereas the spirit soul is completely apart from all matter, including subtle matter. Spirit soul is not even subtle matter. It is completely a different substance, a different identity. So, to differentiate spirit from matter, the Jnana-kanda elaborately describes spirit as something which is non-material. Therefore, Jnana-kanda essentially negates all material conceptions. In brief, Krishna has described Jnana-kanda in the second chapter of the Bhagavad Gita by telling the spirit soul cannot be burnt by fire, cannot be cut by any weapon, cannot be wet by water, cannot be killed by any weapon, like that. Krishna is describing the negative description of what the spirit soul is not. The whole of Jnana-kanda, practically the entirety of Jnana-kanda, is separating spirit from matter by a negative definition, what it is not. Negating all varieties of matter and material combinations and material influence and material effects, including subtle matter. Because people tend to think, if you talk of something spirit different from the body, they tend to think, oh, mind is the spirit. Or mind is spiritual. Or mind is a God. No. Mind also is not God. Mind is not spirit. Mind is not spiritual. Mind is subtle matter. So the subtle matter, to separate the spirit from subtle matter, mind and intelligence also, is very difficult ordinarily for a person even who has become expert in karma-kanda. It's very difficult. So the Jnana-kanda section differentiates spirit from matter by describing in so many different ways how spirit is totally non-material. And in differentiating the spirit from matter, if one is successful in Jnana-kanda, study of Jnana-kanda, and one gets enlightenment, what is spirit? Or who am I? I am that spirit, according to the description in the Jnana-kanda. Who are you? You are spirit. You are that spiritual substance, different from body. You don't have death. You don't have any material qualities. You don't have any of the material designations. So to become free from all material designations, to become free from all material conceptions of material quality, material attributes, is a very great step in the direction of self-realization. But the difficulty with Jnana-kanda section of the Vedas is that the Jnana-kanda also says that the supreme absolute truth or God is of the same quality as the spirit. So many places in the Jnana-kanda, the spirit soul's qualities or spirit soul's nature is equated, is likened to the supreme absolute truth. So one tends to come to the conclusion that I am God. Though the Jnana-kanda says you are of the same quality as God, the conclusion a person may arrive at by studying Jnana-kanda is that I am same as God, and one does not realize, even though that there is equality in terms of quality, there is a difference in the quantity. The quantitative spiritual attributes is not so much detailed in the Jnana-kanda. So for understanding the difference between ourselves as spirit soul and God as supreme spirit, or God also as spirit, we have to come to the Upasana-kanda. Upasana-kanda is the section of the Vedas dealing with devotional service. In devotional service, there is a clear understanding that among spirit souls, there is the supreme spirit Krishna or God, the supreme absolute truth, and the subordinate spirit, which are the living entities. living entities are spirit souls who are subordinate to God under all circumstances, in all situations, in the spiritual world, in the material world, in the conditioned state, in the liberated state. In every respect, the spirit souls, who are innumerable, are subordinate, always subordinate, eternally subordinate to the Supreme Spirit. Now this is also explained in the Vedas, but it is not properly understood by everyone who studies the Vedas, this Jnana-kanda section, the Upanishads. Like for example, in Shvetashvatara Upanishad it is said, Nityo Nityanam Chetanas Chetananam. You are Nitya. You are Chetana. You are eternal, you are conscious. So that is a common characteristic which is shared by the Supreme Lord and the living beings and the spirit souls, the living entities. But the differentiation also is indicated by Nityo Nityanam, the Supreme Absolute Truth being described in this Shvetashvatara Upanishad. He is described as Nitya, the eternal, the one single eternal. See, singular and plural. Nityo Nityana, among many, many living entities, the one single eternal being and the one conscious being among many conscious beings. Chetanas Chetananam. So why that supreme truth or supreme Brahman or the absolute truth is singled out among so many living entities who are conscious and eternal beings? Because eko bahunam yo vidadhati kama. The one eternal, conscious, singular personality or singular entity is supplying the necessities of the many eternal conscious beings. So that difference, eko bahunam yo vidadhati kama. So that difference is not so much noticed when one becomes so much engaged in this study of the spiritual knowledge, Jnana-kanda portion of the Vedas. In Upasana-kanda, it is directly recommended that the subordinate living entity surrenders, worships and accepts the ultimate superiority of the one single supreme spirit soul. So the difference between Atma and Paramatma, Brahman and Parabrahman, that is clearly brought out in the Upasana Kanda, in devotional service. So therefore, devotional service requires this attitude of surrender, submissiveness, meekness, humility, obedience, good manners, good behavior. If somebody is arrogant, maybe he can study karma kanda, maybe he can study even jnana kanda. But when it comes to upasana kanda, devotional service, then one cannot get into the study of Upasana Kanda or get the knowledge about devotional service if one is having this arrogant attitude. Therefore, it is said about Nārada here, specifically it is mentioned by Shukadeva Goswami, Nārada, the most dear of the inheritor sons of Brahma, always ready to serve his father, strictly follows the instructions of his father by his mannerly behavior. Mannerly behavior is called śīlena. Then by his meekness, praśrayeṇa, very meek and humble. And sense control, damena. śuśrūṣamāṇaḥ, always ready to serve him. And anuvrataḥ, very obedient. So therefore, he is very dear to Brahma, and he has specifically inherited this Upasana Kanda knowledge of the or section of the Vedas, which deals with devotional service. So Brahma has particularly entrusted this section of devotional service of the Vedas to Nārada, and later on we will see how Nārada will instruct Brahma will instruct Nārada to actually disseminate this devotional service all over the creation. And it is described by Prabhupada in the purport that Nārada is famous as the greatest of sages because among the sons of Brahma there are many great sages. But even among all those sages, Nārada is the greatest because he is the greatest of all devotees. Therefore, he is the greatest of all sages. He is described as mahā-muniḥ. Why mahā-muniḥ? Because he is mahā-bhāgavato. He is the greatest of devotees. And as the greatest of all devotees, he is the spiritual master of many famous devotees like Prahlāda, like Dhruva, like Vyasa. All of them have their spiritual master, Nārada. Nārada is the spiritual master. So, Nārada is so famous as the greatest of all devotees. And because of his devotional qualifications, he is particularly described here as the greatest of sages. And he is inquiring all about the energies of viṣṇor. This knowledge is the most confidential knowledge. viṣṇor, the personality of Godhead, the supreme personality of Godhead, has many energies. And all those energies, how they are working under the perfect control of viṣṇor, complete control of viṣṇor. And how viṣṇor, even though the controller of all these energies, still he is aloof from all the energies. He is completely aloof. He has got this personal independence, personal activities, personal abode, completely aloof from all the energies. So this is the most confidential knowledge which is revealed to a devotee by the Lord or the Lord's devotee, pure devotee. So Brahma will reveal to Nārada this specific knowledge which is obtained only through devotional service, the knowledge of all the energies of viṣṇor, who is the master of all the energies and who is completely aloof from these energies as the person, the supreme person, supreme personality of Godhead. That is why the others who are not conversant with this specific knowledge, they think that there is no person God. They don't know God as a person, even if they may know something about God as supreme power or supreme knowledge or supreme intelligence or supreme controller. Their realm is within this material world among the different demigods who are controllers, subordinate controllers, or at most about the impersonal Brahman beyond this material creation. The resting place of the entire material creation after the destruction of this whole material world, everything rests in that impersonal Brahman, in that spiritual effulgence, spiritual sky. So without bhakti, one can understand at the most something about the spiritual sky, the Brahman effulgence or the Brahman Jyoti. But to penetrate the Brahma Jyoti and understand the source of the Brahma Jyoti as the personality of Godhead, Krishna, is not possible except by devotional service. And that most confidential knowledge is revealed only to one who accepts the path of bhakti and approaches the pure devotee who is empowered to disseminate this specific knowledge about, confidential knowledge about Vishnu and his energies and his being aloof from all the energies as the person who is transcendental to everything. So I'll stop here. Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai. Hare Krishna. Prasadam will be served in the temple hall here.